video games are the most profitable entertainment industry by a mile. And I think that maybe Hollywood has just started to notice that. That they're like, oh man, you guys, wow, make way more money than we do.
I'm so happy to sit down and get to talk to you a little bit better, because when we met on set, and somebody, literally, I overheard somebody talk about what your career trajectory. And I was like, wait, she does what? She writes video games? And I, oddly enough, know nothing about the idea of writing video games. And it intrigued me so much that I started looking into you and like sort of stalked you. And then I reached out to Rahul and I was like, do you think she would want to come on this show maybe? Like, I'm so intrigued. So I'm so happy to like do this.
I expected this to start with you going, what do you do for a living? Because it does kind of happen often.
Does it really? Is that something you get asked all the time and then you have to elaborate?
Certainly from the friends that I have in the film and TV world, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is surprising because there are more parallels than you'd think. Like the way that different studios do things very differently, but the way that the studios I've written for, right, is very similar to a screenplay. Like functionally very similar. Yeah. And I studied creative writing in university, and like a lot of that was really transferable to video games. I could talk about it for a really long time, though. Do you have any specific questions? Because otherwise,
I do. I absolutely do. Okay, so you, growing up in Australia, were you always interested in gaming? Was that a part of your life, or was it more just the creative writing aspect that was curious to you? How did you get into it?
I would always say the two things I've like always been very passionate about in life are video games and writing.
Okay.
So it was kind of inevitable for me to end up where I am. I started playing video games actually because my mom showed my sister and I these educational games. She was a single mother. She was trying to find ways to like get us interested in things we weren't interested in. Specifically, it was like a maths game. I don't even remember what it was called, but my mom found this game through somebody and had my sister and I play it for educational purposes. We really liked it, and it just spiraled out of control from there. So I ended up, like I said, I had a Nintendo 64, which, you know, every kid in the 90s had that. So my sister and I were playing games together for ages. And then there was a period where it's not like I like really got picked on for it, but she's 4 years older than me. So when she got into high school, she started getting a little bullied for it. And so she stopped playing games, but I kept playing games. So she still does occasionally, but it's something that I was always very into. And so I started my career as a journalist because, again, it didn't even really occur to me that writing video games was a thing that I could get a job doing, and I didn't know what that path would look like.
Mm-hmm.
So I started out reviewing games just on my own on a blog, and then I found a job listing for a volunteer video game news writer, and I was like, amazing, I could get maybe published. And so I started doing it completely for free, and then was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do for a living. I found it, holy crap. And so I went to university. I studied a Bachelor of Mass Communication, majoring in journalism and entertainment writing. I started out as a game reviewer, like I said, and then my favorite part of that particular job was when I got to visit game studios and learn about how video games were made. And so I knew after maybe 4 years of doing that, I was like, oh, I'm going to want to make these at some point. So I just learned as much as I could while being a journalist, and then made the transition very slowly into the actual making video games part. So to answer the question in a shorter version, yes, I always wanted to do this. And no one would do it if you didn't really want to do it, because like any facet of this kind of technical work, like it is a more technical kind of writing than screenplays in some ways. You get paid a lot more for writing a screenplay. You get paid, like all of our engineers, you get paid a lot more if you work for Google. I think the only reason that people with these particular skill sets would work in video games is if they really love video games. Otherwise, do anything else. Pay a lot better.
Talk to me about how you then ended up in Los Angeles. So were you actively working in the gaming industry in Australia and then made the transition? That's a big step. What was the catalyst for that, and when did you do that?
I moved when I was 21. And it was really that the games industry in Australia is a lot smaller. So I started when I was 17 as a freelancer. Like, again, this is all I ever wanted to do, is always I was ever going to do. But I feel like I hit a ceiling already in terms of the facet of it that I was doing then, being journalism in Australia at 21. I didn't have anywhere else to go. So I used, I think it was the last 6 months of my university, and I transferred to San Jose because I knew that a lot of the games industry was in the Bay Area, specifically a lot of people in San Francisco. Realistically, one of the two journalistic outlets that I would have wanted to work for, the two biggest ones, are GameSpot and IGN. So I went, I networked, I met those people while I was studying, applied for a job while I was out there and got it. So it worked very well.
Yeah.
And then had to wait a while to get my visa and all that stuff before I was actually able to move. But yeah, I mean, I left everyone I had ever even met and moved countries at 21. But I just really think I guess I've kind of always been this way, that I feel like if I'm not growing or learning, then I'm like wasting time, I suppose. Like I could see that sort of being a negative in some ways, that I feel that way. But I'm always like, if I'm not constantly getting more information or improving a skill, I need that on top of being paid for a job to feel satisfied or feel like, I don't know, fulfilled, I guess.
Yeah.
So when I had realized that I hit that ceiling already, I basically like orchestrated a game plan to be like, okay, this is where I need to be. I need to meet these people. I need to do these particular things. Like I studied photography at university as one of my elective subjects, and I did a sound production course, which was specifically because I recognized that a lot of people might have done the journalism part, but maybe not so many people who like were looking at the same jobs that I was looking at would know how to do sound production, because podcasts were becoming a bigger thing at that particular point in time. I was originally terrible on camera, so I made a YouTube channel just to figure out how to do that better, just to get comfortable, learn to video edit. I basically like tried to make myself as employable as I possibly could be in order to work at one of those two outlets. And then I worked at IGN for I think 3 years, and then moved to another company from there. And then I ended up at Sony, which is I worked at Sony's Santa Monica studio for 4 years, who make a franchise called God of War.
Right. So, okay. So you bring me to that because I was watching a video of you when you were announcing that you were leaving Sony. And you were talking about that in such a wonderful light, like that it was like your dream job and it was the best job ever and your team was the best and you were leaving.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about God of War, but I also want to talk about like your decision to leave what you said was arguably the best job you've ever had, and that you didn't necessarily foresee that you would have one as good or that you loved in as many ways. So what was the reason for leaving?
Yeah, so I worked there for 4 years, and I've been in the US. I've now been in the US for 11 years, I think, which is a long way away from your family. And at some point, it was over a very long span of time, my stepdad got cancer.
Okay.
And it was awful. It was very long and very painful and very brutal. And when I went home throughout certain parts of that, it basically just occurred to me how much of my life I've spent away from my family. And that I knew that even though the job was amazing and they were really wonderful with like letting me spend some time at home, the rest of my family is still healthy, and that I just like had some regret about how much time I had spent working nonstop, 9 to 5, 10 years. And especially like having sort of made a name for myself in my career and getting a lot of offers for freelance work all the time. I was like, I love this job and I love this team and I love what I get to do every day. And I totally still feel that way. It was an incredible job. But it does prevent me from spending time with my family, and I can always work full time again, at some point very far in the future. But right now, I just spent 2 weeks in New Zealand hiking with my mom, who's 64, but is still able to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Sister has 2 kids, so I have 2 nieces who are just growing up. It's just like I felt like I missed a lot of that family time. So it was a really hard call to make. Thankfully, I'm still friends with a lot of people who work there and still talk to them all the time. And I'm still very excited about the things that they're working on. But I've spent 3 months at home this year. So
Yeah.
it's like my mom and I hiked Machu Picchu this year. And that's the thing that, like, when you work in the US, you only get 10 days off a year if you work a full-time job. Whereas in Australia, it's like 4 to 6. Like, it's insane how little time you actually have off in the US and how much work you have to do. And every job I've worked here was always overtime. It's very even culturally different to Australia, where people clock off at 5. Like, they're just done.
Yeah.
Amazing, but you can't even get away with that culturally in the US. So yeah, it was a very tough call to make, and I feel very in a very lucky / privileged position that I was able to stop working full time and do a bunch of now either freelance or part-time work where they don't care what country I'm working from. Like, very, very lucky that I'm able to do that. But I also think I recognize that, like, that kind of position isn't necessarily going to be there in 20 years, where I am in a position where I'm able to do that because I have all these contacts in the industry. That stuff can go away very fast, especially with how fast moving tech industries are. My skill set could become irrelevant. Maybe I'll be replaced by AI at some point. But right now, I'm able to work from anywhere in the world, which has been, it's been a very amazing year. And I don't regret leaving. I think I made the right call. Like, I'm affirmed, especially having just spent 3 weeks at home and just, like I said, done that road trip with my mom where I was still working from hotel rooms at night.
Yeah.
But I still know what I had, I still am aware of the amazing thing that I walked away from. So
yeah,
it's grateful in all directions.
Look, I think that it's incredibly self-aware to acknowledge the fact that what something or someone has meant to your life and how they've helped you evolve and, become the person that you are, but that it served a different person when you're through with whatever that's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like, not everything is supposed to be everything for you forever.
Yeah. It's a really great way of putting it. Yeah. And it can be hard to accept that sometimes, but that's the truth for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. You talked about how writing for a game is different yet similar to screenwriting. What is different about it? Is it the structure? Is it the structure of the actual project? Is it the structure of the team? Like, what does a room look like on a project like that?
Some games don't even have them. So at Sony, though I would think this is consistent of every AAA studio, which, like, AAA is what we call basically like your Hollywood blockbuster type, several $100 million projects.
I spent so much of the last few days Googling and figuring out what AAA meant. Like, because it's like you guys are like a baseball team. That's like sort of how the game industry refers to top tier, farm teams.
Yes. It's the ones that spend a whole lot of money, really. And so Sony Santa Monica Studios, AAA studio, owned by PlayStation specifically. They are a very story-first studio, which is also a huge privilege as a writer, in that the way things operate there is that they start with story first. So you do start out with writers' rooms with a team of maybe 5 writers, usually a creative director, building out what the story looks like. And all of that, again, not dissimilar to a traditional writer's room. You're using a whiteboard to put ideas down or Post-it notes and moving stuff around and, like, figuring out what the story looks like and then figuring out what all your characters look like and writing up character bios and story arcs and all of that stuff. From there, the part where it becomes extremely different is really team size, right? So you've got up to 600 people, all of very different vocations, working on something separately. When you're working on a film and you're actually in production, the thing is being made, a lot of people are at least in the same room, right? This is people who are super separate, whose departments are so separate that they don't necessarily have to interact. I don't really need to talk to a programmer, even though I know that they're, like, building a level that I'm writing things for. So the part where the writing becomes very different is that you have to meet technical needs, again, not in a way that's totally dissimilar to film, but much more intense. So, for example, if I wrote something where I want to have and again, this is maybe before other departments get involved, I want to have a horse move in a certain direction. Maybe that's already part of the story and this horse is involved here. And then when the other technical departments start getting involved and they get assigned an area or a chunk of the game that they are going to specifically work on, maybe an animator says that what that horse does in this particular section is going to be so difficult to animate because of this particular thing, you have to change it. So it's basically like an extensive series of cuts. Again, not that dissimilar to the kind of thing that a line producer would do on a film, but just much more technical, like things that are very specifically like, that's too hard to animate. Well, this level, the way that you've written it, will maybe take up too much memory. So we can't functionally do that without it taking 2 years, which means that our budget's off. Like, it's basically departments that you have no means of really understanding in full detail what they do because the vocations are so specific and so separate, needing to communicate constantly about what's possible, which is very difficult to figure out as a writer. I'll never know the full intricacies of what a level designer needs without studying that thing. You really have to just rely on each other's expertise. Again, there are absolutely parallels to film and TV, but it's just much more like, I guess, alien.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like, okay, I don't even know what that means, but sure, the particle effects here are too complicated, whatever you say. Or like, some things are easy when you assume that they'll be hard. So it's basically just a series of balances. And then probably the most difficult thing about video game writing is you then have to consider the way the audience interacts with the medium, which is very different to a passive media like film and TV. So say I can't control what someone is doing while they're playing a game and I need them to get an important story beat. Maybe they don't play the game for 2 weeks after that. Or maybe they're on their phone or having a conversation during this particular thing. How do I make sure that everyone in every circumstance, which I cannot control, is understanding what they're doing at any given time? A lot of that comes up to the writing team in that you have to have dialogue to just vaguely remind someone what they're doing without it sounding overly forced, without it sounding like tons of exposition. It's like the variability of even like the way that they've approached something could be in a different order to the way that another player has approached something. So you just have to consider so many facets of like not knowing the circumstance in which someone is consuming the media, where film and TV, you can assume they're sitting down and watching it pretty consistently. It's very different.
This episode is brought to you by Warby Parker. Shopping for glasses used to be a chore, right? For everyone. You go to some sad optical shop, you try on a bunch of frames under those awful fluorescent lights, and somehow you still walk out thinking that like you just made a massive mistake. Warby Parker changed all of that. They design all their frames in-house using premium materials, nothing cheap, nothing flimsy, and they've got styles, tons of them. And you can literally try on any pair virtually from home. Yeah, you heard me, virtually from home. You just go to the site, click on virtual try on. It uses your camera to show you exactly how each pair will look on your face. And it is freakishly accurate and so much fun. I enjoyed this. I did this for hours. Warby Parker's glasses start at just $95, and that includes prescription lenses with anti-reflective and scratch-resistant coatings. Many of their locations also offer eye exams starting at $85. So you could do your $85 eye exam, then go home and virtually try on every pair of glasses. And if you buy 2 or more pairs, you save 15%. I bought like 7 pairs of glasses because what girl doesn't need that many pairs of glasses? And I get so many compliments because people are constantly saying like, oh my gosh, is that a new pair of glasses? Oh my gosh, is that a new pair of glasses? And I'm like, yeah, I rotate like 7 pairs of Warby Parker glasses. I love it. Plus I get my sunglasses. You guys know I love my aviators. I get them there. So head over to warbyparker.com/Sackhoff to try on any pair virtually right now. That's warbyparker.com/Sackhoff. One more time, warbyparker.com/Sackhoff. This episode is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not closing the door when you use the bathroom. I mean, even if you think you've got nothing to hide, why would you give random creeps the chance to peek in? Because here's the thing, your internet service provider can see every single website you visit, and in the US, they're legally allowed to sell that information to advertisers, which is crazy to me. That's why I use ExpressVPN. It reroutes 100% of your traffic through secure encrypted servers so your ISP can't see what you're doing. It hides your IP address, and it's ridiculously easy to use. It's just one click and it works on all devices. I started using ExpressVPN when I was traveling for work because I was bouncing between sets and hotels and airports, and I would be checking emails and scripts on random Wi-Fi networks, and it hit me how vulnerable that really is. Now, before I go online anywhere, I just click one button. I know that my info is protected. I use it on my laptop, my phone, everything. My privacy is not something I'm willing to gamble with. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/Sackhoff. That is expressvpn.com/Sackhoff to get up to 4 extra months free. expressvpn.com/Sackhoff. Hey everyone, if you haven't subscribed to our show, make sure you do that right now. You hit that button. It is the only way to get alerts and know what's coming and what's up. Back to the episode. What do you do? Like, the way my brain works, there would be moments, like, do you ever have those moments, or did you have those moments throughout your career where you were just like beating yourself against a wall and like couldn't find a solution to a design storyline problem, that you were just like, what do I do? Like, is that what the team is for?
Yeah, there was one of those that I don't know if I'll ever be able to talk about, but that was so annoying that we would have spent weeks trying to figure it out. And I was playing this game called Powerwash Simulator. All you do in this game is power wash stuff. That's it. You just sit there and you power wash things, and then you get these like little ding noises when you finished this window. Like you do a house or a van. It's all you do. You just sit there and power wash stuff.
What's the appeal?
It's so relaxing.
Oh yeah.
It's like, it's the idea of sitting there and cleaning something, and it's just something about it is so relaxing. And like, I've made Rahul play it. We had his mum play it. Like, it is, for the people it clicks for, it clicks amazing. And so when I was dealing with this specific story problem that I hope I can talk about it one day, because the fans of the franchise will find it so interesting. But it really shaped a lot of the game design because it was such a complicated problem. But I was playing Powerwash Simulator a ton because I was like power washing and just trying to think this thing through in my head all the time, and it was actually really helpful. It's like you get to zone out and be in a peaceful space while still thinking a problem through. So yes, that is totally a thing. This is a thing that I think is more consistent in writing across the board. I've written on other things too, that like animation or film and TV stuff, that I think these problems are consistent. But maybe it's harder for a video game just because it happens over a longer period of time. But yeah, you have to kill your darlings in writing. Something's too expensive. A lot of that's easy to shift. You'd be like, well, we could just do this instead. That's okay. But after a certain point, it's hard to not get demotivated because you're like, again, okay, damn, okay, again.
I would imagine.
Oh, man. Yeah, and it just happens over and over and over again. But like, I'm currently creative producing on a film, and we just yesterday had to make a bunch of cuts for budget reasons, and that's the same kind of thing. Like that across the board is one of the hardest things when, especially the AAA games can take 4 to 6 years to make, up to 8 actually. Like Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out next year is probably 8 to 10. Wow. They're the most expensive games ever made. It's crazy. And it's difficult to stay motivated when you kind of want to give up sometimes and be like, fuck it, just burn it all down then. Who cares? But you can't do that in service of the project. So when, like I said, game development, the writing process is much, much longer that you're just working on one thing. I find it to be a little harder than in film or TV, but it's still effectively the same thing. You just have to kill your darlings. Like, you just have to be like, fine, whatever, it's gone. Were
you at Sony still when it was announced that God of War was being turned into a TV show?
Yes.
So is that just something that everybody knows is going to happen with a big property like that? Like, you just know that that's going to happen?
Well, I mean, I knew as part of the dev team, the writers had to do a little bit of work for the show, which was cool. But not in the way that you'd think, though, because video game writers aren't WGA, so we're not allowed in the writers' rooms. It's a really weird problem to have, where like the people writing the games can't be in the writers' rooms for The games themselves. Yeah, it's crazy. But
that
they
seems
used to be
counterintuitive a little bit.
the video game writers used to be part of the WGA, but effectively got kicked out. Crazy, but because it's still writing. But yeah, that's a whole complicated thing. So we knew, obviously, before it was announced. It's still ongoing. I think they've made a bunch of changes. I don't really know, but that's a kind of more recent thing from Sony, where Sony Studios is trying to do that more often. So there was an Uncharted movie with Tom Holland. There's the God of War TV show. There are a bunch of their properties that they are trying to have adaptations for. And I'd say that's like more of a last 5 years thing.
Yeah.
But I would say even outside of Sony, I don't know that dev teams expect it at this point, but I, as somebody who is like sort of working in both worlds, definitely recognize how much Hollywood wants video game adaptations right now. Like,
well, they want IP.
Totally.
I mean, IP is king.
Too, for sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like this hunger that, indie games that are made with a team of 6 people that nobody ever would have thought of adapting before are getting purchased. Like IP rights are getting snatched up pretty fast for adaptation stuff specifically. So that's definitely become more and more of a thing. Again, kind of recently. It's not like adaptations didn't exist. We had Tomb Raider forever ago,
Of course.
But it's definitely gotten much, much, much more prevalent. And I feel like part of that is like, yes, the desperation for IP is consistent across the board. Obviously, that's why we're getting so many sequels.
Yeah.
But I think there's also maybe video games are the most profitable entertainment industry by a mile. And I think that maybe Hollywood has just started to notice that. That they're like, oh man, you guys, wow, make way more money than we do. And it's by such a dramatic margin. Like video games make more than music. It's huge.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe that wasn't recognized until recently. And I actually would say that like the Sony first party games, the AAA games made by Sony, which again are very cinematic, The Last of Us, may have had an impact on that. Like the way that the stories have been told have like consistently evolved, and voice acting has only gotten better and better and better. And mocap, obviously facial tracking, all of that tech has gotten better and better and better. So it's like become looks more legitimate to Hollywood. Not that video game stories haven't always been great. It's just they're more recognizable to people who don't play games now, I'd say.
Well, you've also seen the success of The Last of Us and Fallout and like these huge game properties that of course Hollywood is going to jump on board. That's what they do. Like there's, they're not big on giving shots to new ideas. They love jumping on a bandwagon. So Ron Moore, who developed and created Battlestar Galactica, is doing God of War.
Oh, no way. Cool.
Yeah, that's why in my mind, and Bear McCreary did the music for your God of War. So that's why I'm like, and Bear has consistently done Ron's soundtracks. Cool. Yeah. He's his composer for so many of his properties.
He's amazing. He's wonderful.
So I just, in my mind, like, I'm not so familiar with the game, but in my mind, knowing that like he's at the helm of the project, I'm like, that's like, he fucking gets it. Like he gets big, large world adaptations. True. I'm really curious to see what happens. It's also
cool, like if he's worked with Bear before, Bear certainly knows the franchise very well. And that's like someone that if you already have a great working relationship with, that you could always ask a question to, I imagine. Like that's really neat. I had no idea. Yeah, because it was a different showrunner.
It was.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was. And I don't know how long Ron's been attached to it, but I know that like when he came on the podcast, we talked about it.
That's super cool, yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back sort of like when you were talking about your sister and like her stopping playing games. Because I love your response when I was researching you walk me through how you came to the decision to email the parents of the people that were bullying you online. It's fucking genius, by the way. Genius. Will you walk me through that? And like, was that sort of around the whole Gamergate time frame?
It was before that.
Okay.
But yeah, so look, a reality of working in the games industry is like I said earlier, if you didn't love video games, you wouldn't do it. It's because there's also just a very unique level of harassment that I had this very strange thing, even when I've worked on film and TV stuff, where I realize how unhealthy it is that I brace for harassment. I'm like, oh, this has come out. I'm
wow.
going to get harassed because of this release date.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
like
yeah.
VHS Beyond, it just didn't happen. And I was like, oh my God. Wow, that's not normal that you just immediately get her. Okay, cool. Wow. So it's certainly also a reality of game development. It's gotten very out of hand and it's really nasty. So again, you wouldn't do it if you didn't love doing it. If they've tried to kick me out for years, and I'm not going anywhere. I love video games too much. Yeah, certainly I would say a consistent experience with probably being any level of known human online is that you get some level of violence in your DMs or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely a very prevalent part of working in video games, unfortunately. And it's gotten very out of hand.
So sorry, because it is, I don't think people understand how unsettling that is to read somebody's intention of violence, even if it's make-believe in their mind, of something that they would do to you. Like,
it doesn't mean anything to me anymore because I'm so used to it. It doesn't even bother me anymore.
So terrifying to me. I'm so sorry. Because that's
Thank you,
awful.
but also it's okay. But I was also like, well, if you were Googling me, there's a pretty good chance that you will have seen like a wave of harassment. I can't look up my own name on the internet because it happens. But anyway, it's what it is what it is. Still here, still love what I do, still feel very lucky to be here.
Yeah.
But so the thing that you're referring to was, I got a bunch of comments from random people on the internet, don't even know what sparked them. And there was one particular instance where somebody had sent me a direct rape threat. And I looked at this person's profile, which I normally wouldn't even pay attention to, and saw that he was like a 12-year-old boy. And I was like, this kid probably doesn't even necessarily know what this means or like what he's saying to a stranger in this context.
Yeah.
I feel like that's maybe changed now. Apparently 13-year-olds are saying it to each other
I'm sure they are
regularly
now.
at this point, but back then, not so much of a thing 12-year-olds, I think, were saying. And so because his whole Facebook profile was public at the point in time that I don't know if Facebook still has this, but there was a family tab where he had literally listed his family members. So I went to his mom's profile. It was the parent that was available. And I sent her a screenshot and I said something like, hey, are you aware of the things that your son is saying on Facebook or whatever? And it was in no small part because I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And I was entertained by the idea of this kid, his mom finding out what an idiot he is online, but also that it seemed like the only way to teach an actual lesson.
Yeah.
So I'd done this to a few, and some of the parents, sometimes dads as well, were just really defensive and basically like told me to fuck off or treated me like I deserved it, which is like, okay, well nothing I can do about it.
Apple tree.
Great point.
Yeah.
But this particular one, I think it is maybe the first time that I did it, and she called him a little shit. I remember that really distinctly. She made him write me a letter, which he did. And they ended up having a parent teacher, or a teacher conference at the school specifically about online conduct. And I was like, I didn't expect any of that. That rules. Like that anything could have happened. Very, very cool. Yeah. And it's like, it's not like I've made any difference, but it's still certainly happening. But sometimes, you ever heard like the phrase, like, don't feed the trolls or ignore the trolls?
Yeah.
I feel like that only really comes from people who don't have a following, in that like, it's not bad advice, but sometimes if it happens to you enough, you just need to say something. Sometimes it can be the volume, and you're like, what if I want to just punch back one time to make myself feel better and to laugh at something? Yeah. I'm going to do it. It's going to happen anyway.
You have the right to do that. Like it's
totally.
It's really hard to let people talk shit about you online
constantly
and not be able to say, hey, fuck you. Like, would you say it to my face? Because I guarantee you wouldn't. You would never say it to my face.
Yeah. And these people have no concept for how much of it you ignore, right? So like whenever I see a don't feed the trolls or ignore the trolls, I'm like, listen, I do 90% of the time. But in that 10% where I want to tell somebody to go fuck themselves, or I want to make fun of them, or I want to make a joke, I'm going to do it. And I promise you, doing it does not increase or decrease the volume of it that occurs, because that tends to be a common thing from these people who, again, don't have following, so they don't know as well. They'll be like, well, you're giving them attention, they're just going to do it more often. Trust me, they're going to do it every day no matter what I do. Like, you have no say in this. As anyone who has, you know, over 100,000 followers, probably this is a common thing. And it's like, sometimes you just got to tell somebody to fuck off to feel better about the situation. Go ahead and do it.
So we're talking about violence right now, basically, but violence against women. But what I was doing some research actually, and you know, I am not an expert, and we all know that sometimes when you're researching online, the form that you put the question in can actually like just give you the, you know, the answer, the hypothesis that you wanted anyway, right?
Especially now.
So I'm very aware of that, but what I was looking at in violence in video games, I found so interesting in that they really haven't found a massive connection to the violence in the games contributing to violence in adolescence. But what they have found, from what I can see, and I'm so curious what you think, is that people who have violent tendencies already tend to lean toward violent games. Therefore, you see this like correlation potentially, but that there is no actual evidence, overwhelming evidence that it can actually create aggression in somebody who didn't have aggression to begin with.
So I've read many studies on this particular thing, but you know, not necessarily have read all of them. So my understanding from the ones that I have read, and I've written articles about it, is there is no proven correlation between video games and violence in real life. Absolutely none.
Right.
That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but they have never been able to prove it. Where there is a correlation, I've not even heard what you said, where like people with violent tendencies tend to play more violent games. Because like, I mean, part of that, if you think about the amount of video games where you're shooting something, the reality is just that there is something that humans in all mediums find very satisfying about aiming at something and throwing something at it. We really like doing that. We like a shooting range. We like axe throwing. We like shooting a ball in a hoop. It's just that particular thing is satisfying. It's not that the person dying at the end of the bullet is satisfying. It's that the aiming part is satisfying, right?
Right.
But where there is a correlation is basically that people who tend to have more aggression are faster to react aggressively to a video game that frustrates them, which I think makes sense. So like supposedly statistically, the most frustrating game to play is Mario Kart. Like that is rate number one, which I think like agreed, but also
you're gonna go out and stomp some mushrooms in your yard.
But it's also, that's the one that has the highest correlation with people who already have a temper, which you know can often correlate to a violent tendency that makes them react in an aggressive way. It's not the game where you are shooting things or beating someone up or where there's blood and guts. It's it's just the frustrating nature of particular video games that unlocks frustration that then makes people violent. So there, again, when I say there's no correlation between violence and video games, it's that none has been proven. And I always, like, even as a video game fan, by bias, I would love to say, I've played video games. I played Grand Theft Auto when I was 12. I've never hurt anybody and will never hurt anybody, except I did have a boxing match once. That doesn't count.
I know. I read about this. My mind is fucking blown, by the way. I have never in my life wanted to let somebody hit me in the face purposefully, like even for charity. I don't think
That part was fine. You know what was really hard for me was hitting her.
Oh, I would find that easy.
Oh, I couldn't do it. I found that really difficult. Like being hit. This is a very weird thing to say that you definitely learn as you're preparing for a boxing match. Being hit doesn't, in the face especially, doesn't actually hurt. It's just shocking. So like the first several times I was hit in the face, I would cry, but I'd be like, I don't know why I'm crying. I'm fine. But it's actually just that you're like, oh my God, I've been hit in the face. But it doesn't hurt that bad. It's okay.
Did you box with headgear on?
No, because headgear is considered to potentially have worse effects. That's why they don't do it in the Olympics anymore. Yeah, because it rattles you a little and your peripheral vision can be hurt. So concussion is in theory more likely. But I'm not an expert on that, so I don't say that with confidence. But that's what we were told is what we learned. Right? But so being punched in the face, fine. Punching a woman, I had a lot of trouble with it initially. And I feel like I should like add context is that like, you know, I saw my mom face violence as a kid. And I think that's probably where a lot of it came from. It just especially because I'm quite tall, and a lot of the girls that I was sparring against before I fought, like the person who was my actual opponent, was smaller than me, and I was just really hurting them. I would cry while punching people because I just kept having this thing that is not in any way profound, but that still kept hitting me, where I was like, how does this make anyone feel strong? How does punching someone that you are stronger than and hurting them make anyone ever feel good? Like, how can anyone do this? It's not to say that like I'm pro punching men either. Like, I mostly sparred with boys, but they didn't like fold and cry when I punched them. And so it was like a lot easier to do. Whereas like, punching girls in the face and just seeing the face of like, it sucked. Like that was actually the biggest hurdle in the boxing match for me. Was I was fine with being punched. I did not like hurting people.
So why did you, I mean, was there ever a part of you that was like, I don't want to do this? Because it was for charity, right?
That was the whole point. So I couldn't back out because it was for charity was the point.
Right.
But I like cried in my car one of the nights that I beat up my friend Sabrina. And the next day she sent me a picture of her arm that was bruised, but she sent it in a way that was like jokey, and I was like, I'm so sorry. Oh my God, what have I done? I'm a monster. But she was like, oh my God, look what you did. You're so cool. And I was like, no, how dare I?
Never fight your friends, by the way.
No, and I gotta fight people that you don't know. That was the part of the problem. Her and I like knew each other. We were friends. So yes, there were definitely moments where I was like, oh my God, I can't do this.
Yeah.
But it was for charity. That's the thing that kept me going. The second part of that is there are also huge benefits to boxing, and then I would actually encourage everyone, especially women, but everyone, to do some boxing training, because not only is it incredible cardio, whole full body cardio, like it is just, oh my God, the amount of calories that you can shred doing an hour of boxing is crazy. It's exhausting. Yeah. But it also gave me this like sense of strength that I didn't have before, where I'm not saying that I could beat up a random on a street, but that I'm now confident in that conflict, where previously I would freeze. Like, I'm that kind of person where if I would see something, I would just shut down and be useless. I wouldn't even run away. I would just freeze. It like healed that for me, I think. And then I was like, oh, well, now I at least have more understanding of sort of a cohesion in my physical sense. I know it probably sounds really cheesy, but it was just like if I want to, I'm not afraid of being punched in the face now. And I know how to punch somebody in the face in a way that will hurt them quite a bit. And there's something about that that just like is freeing, I suppose. So like I would recommend really any self-defense, probably for any women, but again, everyone really.
I think it's really important. I think that you have to know what it feels like to punch somebody in the face in order to, I think, know how to fight back. Because that the first time you hit somebody in the face, it's weird. And I, by the way, have only sparred people, and then also only on set hit people by accident. And
which I'm sure you felt really bad.
Oh my God, terrible. And it usually comes because it's too late in the day and you should never do fights in the end of the day, or they didn't give you enough time to study and like all of these things. But anyway, but that feeling, that first time of like connecting with somebody, you kind of need to know what that feels like to know that you have the capability to do it and you won't freeze, because you'll never forget what fist on skin feels like. It's like, totally. It's unlike anything.
Once you get punched a couple of times, it's not scary anymore. Like it really, if someone were to threaten to punch me in the face now, I'd be like, okay. Like,
I know, right?
No. It sucks when it hits you in the nose, but anywhere else, not a problem. Like completely, like your stomach is way worse than hitting you, and it's fine. It's also just a big part of boxing, which was something that I was not good at, that like I'd love to learn to get better at, but I never managed to connect this skill, is like a huge part of boxing is just seeing how someone is going to hit you, is being able to foreshadow what they're going to do and why. That definitely takes a lot longer to learn, but I can see that being very useful in the real world too. Is like you can just like you learn to look at people's shoulders and like what their stance is sort of like showing you that they're going to do. But again, definitely a skill that was not something I perceived that fast. But if you can tell someone's going to throw a punch at you in a certain way, also helpful in the real world. It's just, but even then, I think like not even thinking about real world violence, it's just fitness aspects of it and the sort of just inherent feeling of strength that comes with it. very empowering. Like I really recommend it to absolutely everybody. It's a really fun sport to get involved in.
There's
and you don't have to punch them.
A girls only jujitsu class here for little girls, for like 3-year-olds.
Awesome. Oh,
and
no
so
way.
we're trying to get our daughter. It's not happening right now. It only happens at certain times, but we want to get her into it. Like I think it's really important for people to know how to defend themselves, especially women.
Yeah.
And diffuse situations, like to know martial arts and to be able to actually like, move your body in such a way that you're deflecting the violence instead of like, absorbing it is really important as well.
Yeah. And I think it's also just like it gives you the confidence, I would think, especially for little girls, the confidence to stick up for themselves, which, like you said, in terms of diffusing, like just having the confidence to stick up for yourself, I think, even if you think about like schoolyard bullying, can go a really long way. And I think a lot of that comes from feeling like physically confident can help you be mentally confident and vice versa.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
definitely recommend. That's also, I feel like that would be really cute to watch. I bet that would be an adorable class.
I know. Although she'll probably beat up her brother. That's probably not a good idea, right? Yeah, but
well, she's going to do that at some point anyway.
She's bigger than him.
No way.
So what are you working on now? What are your goals for you sort of moving forward? I mean, do you always see yourself staying in the video game sector, or want to do more sort of like actual acting and work that way?
So right now I'm one of a team of 3 people making a game that's called Layers Deep. I'm the narrative director, so I am writing that. That is one of my full-time things. I'm creative producing on a couple of movies, and I'm doing a ton of acting at the moment. But the answer to that question, and I think why I will always stay fairly varied in what I do, is that, like I said earlier, I'm very driven by learning. So I very much like to be around people who have way more experience than me and that are much smarter than me, which is certainly pretty much everybody in game development, because they're all like, like engineers, like their knowledge is just so cool. It's definitely my favorite part about game development actually is like the breadth of knowledge that's so varied in all of the people that you have to interact with, and also how welcoming they all are in teaching you those things if you show an interest. I've never had any level of gatekeeping from the game development community. But in terms of like both acting and film production, what inspires me in life outside of learning and being around smart people is I just really like helping creative people make creative stuff. Like I feel like if I like have a purpose, it's to do that, to like facilitate helping creative teams who want to get together and just make a cool thing that they really believe in. I will do that in whatever facet I can be useful to that team. Like that's my whole thing. So like, it means I don't fit myself in a box particularly well, and I do a bunch of stuff, and I recognize that it can be confusing to people, but that's because like when I say like what I want to do with my life, you'd ask me that question, I imagine I'll always be involved in video games. It's definitely a passion of mine, but that doesn't mean that I necessarily will be doing it full time forever or whatever. Like that's not necessarily going to always be my main thing, but I can't imagine leaving. Like it's part of who I am. Yeah. But really I will go wherever I feel like the skill set that I have can best serve other creative people to make cool creative stuff. And I don't care what that looks like or which facet of creativity that is. Yeah. I'll just chase that for as long as I possibly can. And I think the more times that I get to do it on different things, the better. Like every new, most of the acting that I do is video game voice acting. Every new team that I get to work with on that, again, it's a whole new audio director every single time, and a whole new team, and a whole new script, and a whole new world. And it's like, I just get to even be a tiny part of that whole slice of something that they made that they're passionate about, and being able to be included in that at all is amazing. So I don't really care how. I'm just like, cool, if I can be of help, let me do that. I would love to. I feel like, it is what I find to be most fulfilling on planet Earth, is making creative stuff with passionate people. So I'll do it however I can.
Thanks so much for listening, everyone. We appreciate you. We love that you are here in an overcrowded podcast space. It means the world that you chose us. If you're interested for more, you can actually come join us on Patreon, patreon.com/The Sackhoff Show. We would love to see you there. We're building a wonderful community, and it is the one and only place where you will get to see our hindsights and have direct connection to me. There's lots of perks, and I hope you check it out. If not, don't worry about it. I love you anyway, and we will see you next Tuesday, and that's what's up.